You're following. Good, 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 good. So tell us about your understanding of target costing. Target costing is very, 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 very important. So I want to make
Yes,
sure
what I
everybody
understand.
understands it, and not only understands it, but applies it in real life. Okay.
Yes, what I understand about target costing is like it focus on the market to be
Okay.
able to identify your price first and to be able to set your profit margin before introducing the product into the market, so
Very
that
good.
you will not be able to make mistakes by pricing higher or lower than competitors. And
Yes.
also, it tells us to also focus on research and development, so that
Exactly.
you also improve on the production of the product, so that you can maybe spend less than the competitors.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
Very good.
that's
Very
what I
good.
understand.
Very good. It's a very, very, very efficient way of costing, which results in the efficient way of production, and of course, which brings profitability at the end. Okay, this is a method that is used in the West a lot. It's used in the West a lot. Okay, so I want us to adopt it here as well. When you go out to a lot of businesses, this is what they will say. Ah, but how can I give you a price that will not factor my cost? I have to remove all my costs and add this and add that. But they don't actually understand that those prices they are giving out are not competitive. At the end of the day, why are we producing? We're producing because we want to make revenue. Okay, we're producing because we want to generate revenue, and as such, we generate profits. Okay, so not only about generating revenue also, but about generating profits. Because all businesses, of course, profit maximizing businesses are for profit. If you cannot make profit, then that means you might as well shut down. Good, excellent. So let's move on. So let's go to the
Hello.
steps.
Hello, Mr. Fofana.
Yes,
Yeah,
Ismail. Yes,
the Jarangas,
Mr.
they want
Fofana, I
bread.
just
You
Mr.
know,
Fofana.
most of
Usman,
these big,
Usman. Oh, okay,
the
Usman.
price.
Let's allow Mr. Keita to come first. Mr. Keita, yes, go ahead. Usman, we'll come to you. Keita,
Yes,
yes.
Mr. Fofana. That's what I want to ask. Well, it's like in the Gambian market, sometimes you will make your targets on like, and then maybe in 2 3 months you will see the price will fall. So if you make a target like in the 3 months, this is what I want to get, and then within 2 3 months the price fall. So I don't know whether it's gonna target affect you the targets you already make for that 2 months time.
No, this target cost is usually done before production. If you produce your products and push
Yes,
them to the market,
yes,
whatever. That's why when you go to buy cement, some people
yes.
you like they will tell you, okay, the cement price has come down, but some how to call it dealers will say, but when I was buying my cement, the price was that high, so I cannot sell it for lower than this. So it's the same concept here. When you are doing your target costing, you do it before production. So that means all the costs that you are going to incur in production will all be factored in. Okay, and your profit will also be factored. So even if a change happen in between, you will not be able to change, because if you change naturally, you're likely to make profit, or sorry, you're going to sustain losses, or your profitability will reduce drastically.
Okay, that is very important to me because, like for example, we want to invest in the future too, so you have to consider these factors too. That's why I'm asking this question.
Okay, you want to invest in?
Yeah, I want to invest in the future, so I just
Okay,
want to. That's why
excellent,
I want to
excellent, good,
spend.
good, good.
That's why.
We want the types of the types of you. We should not go to university only to be on someone's payroll. We should always endeavor to be job creators rather than job seekers. Okay,
All
so
right,
this
thank you
is
very much.
very good. We should think along that line.
All
This
right,
is
thank
what
you
is
very much.
lacking in the country. Yeah. Okay,
All right.
thank you. So Usman, yes, come now.
I mean that the Jarangas, they like bread too much. Okay. What I understand in target costing is like they are price takers. They take price because like they cannot control the price of a particular product,
Okay.
and they want to sell this product at the market. And
Yes.
what they will do now, they don't want to make a losses. So in the bread, like the bakers, they will try and make sure that they give a quantity of a bread that will be equivalent to the $7 that they normally sell at the market. Everybody knows, because if you put it $8, people will not leave, will leave you and go to another shop to buy the bread. So now that's why the tapalapa now, some of these tapalapas, the quantities are now reducing, because before what you will, and nowadays it is very, and because like they cannot increase prices.
So very good. I think that's Usman. That's a very good example of negative target costing, because just like Usman is explaining, you know, the price for bread is already determined. It's predetermined. You know, usually the government, you know, set the price for bread, you know, like that. So when the government says, well, you cannot sell your bread, you cannot sell your tapalapa for more than $7. So now what you have to do, you have to apply your target costing techniques. Okay, how do you apply it? First, you already know that you cannot sell it for more than $7 per lot. Now you have to work on. You have to work from the bottom. Okay, so if I have to sell my bread for $7, I can't go beyond $7. Okay, next, I have to make a profit. That's why I'm in business. Okay, so you say, okay, from my bread, from that $7, I'm going to make $2 profit from every loaf. Now, what are you left with? What are you left with?
$5.
$5. And what is that $5? That $5, you must make sure that accounts for your flour, your yeast, your colorizer, and so on and so forth. So if that means you reducing the normal size of your loaf, so be it. Because if you don't apply target costing, definitely you are going to make losses. So I think, Usman, that's a very good example. That's a very good example. So you understand, in real life, we are applying target costing, but just that we don't know. So there are some situations, if you don't apply target costing, you're going to push yourself out of the market. In some situation, you know, push yourself out of the market means you're going to sustain some losses, like in a situation whereby prices are predetermined. But in a situation whereby it's a free market, in that case, you have to be careful, because if you don't do your pricing based on what prevails in the market, you're going to push yourself out of the market in the sense that you're not going to make sales. Okay? So these are practical, you know, examples of, you know, target costing and so on and so forth. Good. I'm happy that people are understanding. Okay, so let's go through the steps that we need to take in target costing. So first, we have already discussed it. We determine our selling price by, of course, making some market research. Number two is to establish our required profit. Like I said, this required profit can be determined in different ways. Like a situation with a tapalapa producer, you could say every loaf that I produce, instead of making a percentage, you say every loaf that I produce, I must make $2 profit. Okay, so that's your profit margin. Then naturally, you know, if you have your selling price and you knock off your profit, because the selling price includes everything. I hope we all know that the selling price is the total of the profit and the cost. Okay, so if you knock off profit from the selling price, what are you left with? You are left with the cost, and that is the cost you are going to use to produce your tapalapa. So that is what you call your target cost. Okay, I hope it's clearer now.
Yes.
Yeah, very clear, someone.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. So the last step will be to close the gap. Okay, gap will always be between two things. And what are these two things? The first one is your original cost, because you must have a current costing technique which may be either your ABC costing technique or your absorption costing technique. Mind you, because for the fact that you have newer techniques doesn't mean you should still dump your ABC or your absorption costing. They are very useful. They are very useful for comparison. Okay, so you will calculate your costs, your current cost, based on your using your ABC or your absorption costing. Whatever cost you have to compare that with your target cost. Your target cost will always be lower than your actual cost using your current costing regime. So the difference is what you call the cost gap. Okay, and that cost gap, that difference, you have to eliminate it. Because if you don't eliminate that difference, then that means you are not going to use target costing. Then that means you're going to have issues when you produce. Okay, I hope that's clear. I hope that's clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so let's do a question that will make it clearer. We do one little question that will make it clearer. But actually, before we do this question, because there are two little questions that we're going to do, before that, let's look at some of the literatures, and then we'll come back to those questions. They're very simple, straightforward. The question we're going to do next class will be a bit more complicated, which is an exam type question. So these ones we're doing just to set the scene. Okay, so what did we say? We follow 4 steps. The 4th step is to close the gap. Closing the gap means eliminating that difference of cost between our estimated cost using ABC or absorption costing and target cost. How do we eliminate those costs? We eliminate that cost gap by using a technique called value engineering. Okay, value engineering. So value engineering entails a lot. What it means is you have to look at your production processes. You have to look at your specification of the goods that you're going to produce. You have to look at how you're going to produce, your product. So that means you have to look at everything about that product and then try to see how you're going to reduce cost. Okay? How you're going to reduce cost to meet your target cost. But the principal, thing to note is you must not compromise. You must not compromise what? Quality. Okay? Quality is the reason why customers will buy your product. So that means whatever benefits they are going to get from the product is what they are buying, not the product itself. For example, if you buy a mobile phone, why are you buying the mobile phone? You're buying the mobile phone because you want to communicate with people. You want to send text messages. You want to communicate using WhatsApp. You want Facebook, and so on and so forth. So those benefits is what we are buying. So your reduction of cost must not compromise with the mobile phone in such a way that you cannot be able to use video calls. You cannot be able to use WhatsApp. You cannot be able to go to Facebook. Okay? So I hope that is clear. I hope that's clear. You understand what value engineering means?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So now, how do we close gap by using value engineering? We've described value engineering, but how do we do value engineering? Okay, we say the main purpose of value engineering is to close the cost gap, is to eliminate the difference between the target cost and the estimated cost using our ABC or our absorption cost. How do we remove that cost? Why should we remove it? If we don't remove it, then that means we are not going to produce using our target costing concept, we are not going to be efficient in our production. Okay, so this is why we are going to close the gap. Now, how we close the gap using value engineering is what we're coming to describe. So first, if it is a situation whereby you're producing with components, for example, a mobile phone, you need the screen, you need the microphone, you need this, you need that, the component count, okay? So where possible, you can reduce the component count because the more component you have, the more costly it's going to be, okay? So if there are some components that don't add any value, for example, if you have a design on the mobile phone, okay? For example, a typical example is these phones, the iPhone, how to call it, 11 and 12 and so on and so forth. You know, when you look at this, you have three camera positions. Okay, I don't know. Maybe some of you who have already got it might know it better. But to me, it's only one camera that's operational. So why do you have? So that's a typical example of reducing cost. Jenaba, mute your mic when you're talking, please. Jenaba. Okay, so reducing component count. Okay. You use standard components where possible. Try to change materials, alternatives. A typical example I usually give is if, for example, your business is into producing tables, okay, producing tables. You know, when you're producing tables, you can use plywood as your tabletop. You can also use aluminum as your tabletop. We know naturally aluminum might be more expensive than plywood, okay? So if your current production is using aluminum, you might consider using plywood if your customers are still going to be happy and then that they're going to demand your product. Is that clear? Am I carrying you along? Are you with me?
Yes. Yes.
You getting the concept of value?
Yes.
It seems like you.
Another example would be like.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Yes. What's another example?
Another example would be like the one-job sellers. Some of the one-job sellers nowadays, they will buy this powder juice in order to reduce the amount of sugar that you will buy to add it to the one-job.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So they will substitute. Yes, that's right. It's all. I mean, you know, our people are very intelligent. There are lots of things that we learn in universities already. Those people are doing it. So that is true. They will want to do anything to ensure that they reduce costs. And what some people also, not only the one-job sellers, some of these I think juice makers, they usually buy this. I don't like that milk at all. That big condensed milk tin, I hate it. I definitely hate it. So, you know, that thing is all color, sugar, and whatever, I don't know. You know, that condensed milk, I don't know whether you know it. They call it, is it B&B? Is it B&B?
Yes, it's B&B.
Yes. So some people like a situation whereby, like when they're making boba juice or something like that, where they put milk there and stuff. Instead of buying milk, they'll go and buy that B&B. And that B&B does two purposes. Because that B&B has got too much sugar concentration. So if you put B&B there, at least that would reduce your cost on sugar. So they do a lot of things that you know, works around, you know, that is in line with this concept. Good. Okay, so the next thing we do in closing the gap using value engineering is to reduce production complexity. You know, the more complex your production processes are, the more costly they're going to be. So try to keep your production process as simple as possible. Okay? by acquiring, of course, try to acquire new technologies. Because I remember in those days when I used to, you know, my first job was at Daily Observer. We used to do commercial printing as well. We print books, journals, and so on and so forth. Okay. In those days, if you have to produce a book or so, there are a series of procedures that you need to go. Nowadays, machines just do all that at a go. For example, in those days, before you can produce a book or even a newspaper, first you have to do typesetting on the computer. The typesetting, after when everything is done, they will use that to cut it into plates. They call it plates. And that is usually done by lithographers. They call them lithographers. Okay, so it's the lithographers that prepare those plates, and it's those plates that they will pass to the printers. The printers are the ones who operate the printing machine. So the plates will be used to run in the printing machines, and they produce the newspapers or the books. But nowadays, you do everything in one machine. Just sit on your computer, do all the typesetting. That same machine does the plating and everything together. Okay, so you're trying to reduce your production complexity by acquiring modern and new technology. Okay, and of course, if there are situations whereby you need to, cut off, activities that are not going to add any value to the product, you cut them off. Okay, so we look at the production process and try to revise it. Okay, we try to revise the specification as much as possible, like the example I gave you. In a situation whereby we're going to, like the Tapalapa case, Mr. Njai, he gave the example for Tapalapa because the Nyomingas only know Tapalapa. For us, we have send-full machine in Nyomi. You people don't have. You only eat Tapalapa. So I'm sure that's why you're giving that Tapalapa example. Okay. So in the case of the Tapalapa producer, how can he be able to do some, play around, to reduce cost?
Savona, but
Yes.
I was in Jara for 2 years, but I've never seen a send-full machine in Jara.
Look at you. It's in summer. At least now we have, I think, 2 or 3. We have them in summer.
Okay, that's just recently, oh?
Well, I don't know. It's a long time now. It's a long time now.
Okay.
Right. So what can a bread producer do with what value engineering technique can a bread producer do to reduce the cost gap? Value engineering. We all know, we've all know this example here. We've all know this situation here. In the Gambia, of course, bread prices are usually predetermined. Okay. So if that is the case, then that means before you produce, you have to do some target costing, isn't it? So if you have done your normal costing technique as a bread producer and you came to realize that, okay, the cost, we all agree that in order for a bread producer who wants to make $2 profit on the $7 selling price bread has to produce at $5. But let's say you have done your costing and your production cost stands at $8. So you have a cost gap of what? $3, isn't it? So that $3, how are you going to eliminate it? How are you going to eliminate that $3? This
I can say, like,
this is what makes my class different from other classes. We are not going to learn Western terminologies and stop there. We have to know them, and we have to be able to apply it in our situation because we are not there. We are here. This knowledge, they are very useful, but the only time they become useful is when we can apply them. Okay, so That's why I try to drag my class and try to discuss with my students and try to bring real life examples that affects us in the Gambia, rather than citing examples in the UK or other places. Okay, because whatever education we get, we are supposed to use that to benefit us. Is that correct? So let's apply it in our own situation. Yes. Was it, who wanted to talk? Karamo? Was it Karamo?
Yes. What I was saying is like, you can be your own distributor to cut that cost, part of the whole target cost. Maybe you distribute the product after production. That will cut.
Okay, you distribute yourself, yes. So you're going to reduce on delivery, yes. So the one overhead will go off, yes. So that's one example of doing it. You know, we know in this bread production usually is usually the fullers do it. These fuller vendors do it. They usually do all the distribution, and they do this distribution at a cost. Okay. So if you can go down to your final, consumers or to the shopkeepers directly, you're going to save on cost. So that's one way of value engineering to reduce your production cost. Spot on. So what's another way of doing it?
Mr. Fofana, you look for the discount buying in bulk so that you will generate a price discount. Is it price discount or discounts on purchase of buying them?
Discount, bulk purchase discount. Very good. That's a very good example. So if for example you used to buy your flour, let's say your how to call it, your bakery is situated in Tabokoto, so you used to buy your flour from the NAR shop close to you. The NAR shop naturally is going to charge you more. So what you can do is you could decide to buy your flour from Banjul, from the factory itself. It's going to save you cost. So that's another way of looking at your production process, your products, how you get them, and try to reduce costs. Yes. So that's one way of doing it. Thank you, Usman. What's another way of reducing the cost gap?
Yes, it's to cutting out non-value added activities.
Typical example. We want example.
For example, when they are traveling these brides to the customers or to their customers, they normally use these motorcycles or these vehicles. So therefore, in order to reduce that, they can use a bicycle in order to travel these products.
Or donkey cart.
In 16 hours.
But if you use donkey cart to transport your bread, I wonder whether your customers will be happy with you. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that will be another problem.
But that's a good example. That's a good example because that's gonna reduce the cost. Because motorbike, you have to how to call it? You have to put some fuel there and stuff like that. So by reducing your consumables in terms of the delivery is another way. Okay, so good. So I'm really happy. Of course, another way of doing it is trying to ensure that the machine you're going to use, that's your bakery itself, that does the baking, it has to be energy efficient. Okay, it has to be energy efficient. You need to ensure that your machine is always serviced so that it does not consume a lot of fuel and so on and so on. So that's also another way of reducing cost. But please, you have to take note of all these, all these procedures we're discussing now. You must ensure that they don't compromise with the quality of the bread. It might affect the size of the bread. Okay, if the size of the bread is a bit smaller compared to before, okay, no problem. The customers might accept it. But if you touch the bread and it kinds of, so like you touch the bread, it's like rice or it's like something else. So it's hard and stuff like that. You're definitely going to lose customers. They will run away from you. And you're going to put yourself in trouble. Is that clear? So you should do your value engineering in such a way that the quality of your products and services are not compromised. Okay? Because if they are compromised, you're going to do a bigger damage than what you're trying to achieve. Customers will run away. If customers run away, it's going to be very, very, very difficult to bring back that repetition because your repetition will have gone completely. Is that clear? Okay, so, right, so we continue. So let's look at the advantages of target costing. Of course, we've been discussing the advantages as since we started the discussion, but we can just wrap them up. Of course, cost control and reduction. Because you are on top of, how you're going to do your costing, because of that,
Yes,
you'll
yes.
easily be able to control your cost and you can be able to reduce it, isn't it? And your selling price will be market-based, and I told you what that means. If your selling price is in line with what obtains in the market, then that means your products are going to be demanded, which will boost your sales revenue. And of course, if your sales revenue is boosted, your profitability is likely to increase as well. Okay, and of course, your customers are going to be happy with you. Okay, they'll keep buying and keep buying. Okay, right. So disadvantages, of course, anything in life that has advantages will also have some disadvantages. It's time consuming, of course, and it might be costly. For example, if you have to do a proper market research, but is all you have to do. What is more important you have to do is to do a CBA, a cost benefit analysis. If you have to do a market research, you don't have to do a market research that's going to cost you a lot of money, and at the end, it's going to consume your profit. You will not be prudent if you do that. Okay, so how to call it? Of course, to apply it in practice is relatively difficult when you compare it to the traditional costing techniques. Okay, so having gone through all the literature, I think we can look at the two small questions, and next week we're going to look at exam type question called Edwards Limited. But I will give you an assignment, which will be a research-based assignment. Okay, so when we're closing the classes, at the end of the class, I will give you that. Okay, right. So this is the first question. It's a very simple one. Okay, we're going to go through it quickly. I think we can even do it without necessarily answering it on, we can do the next question by answering on our Google Sheet. Okay, so the question says, CMC Limited, a car manufacturer company, wants to calculate a target cost for a new car. The price will be set at $20,000. CMC Limited requires 10% profit margin required. What is the target cost? Okay, but again, I want to ask whether any one of you have got a question. Okay, before we move to the questions, to be honest, target costing is